Okay, so first, holding your chanter, you've got 7 holes along the front, and you've got 1 hole in the back, so 8 holes total. So what you're going to do to hold it is you're going to take your right hand and your 4 fingers, and you're going to line them up from pinky up to pointer from that bottom hole. So 4 bottom holes in the front are taken care of by those 4 fingers. Your thumb is just support on the back. Your left hand, you're going to take your first 3 fingers and they're going to cover up the upper 3 holes. And your thumb is going to cover the hole on the back. So now everything is covered. So that's how you hold your chanter. Now you'll notice that my fingers are fairly straight. Some other instruments that at least look kind of similar to a bagpipe chanter, the practice is to play with the tips of your fingers like that. You're not going to want to do that with bagpipes though, and that is largely because a lot of the things you do with bagpipe music includes like quick little kind of bubbly, fluttery notes that are called grace notes and doublings and burls, other things like that that are going to be best done if you don't have a lot of tension in your fingers. So you don't want to be like spider legs on your chanter like this. It's also harder to find your hole when you come back down that way. So you're kind of playing with just sort of the pads of your fingers. Like my pointer finger, for example, the hole is covered with this part of my finger right here. And with them all straight, my pinky is fairly close to the end. But you'll find a comfortable place as you're practicing, but that's kind of what you want to go with. What I've been told before is that you want to treat your chanter as if it's a varnished turd. So you also don't want to squeeze it too hard, because again, if you're squeezing, even if you've got the pads of your fingers on nice and loose, once you start squeezing, then you've got tension in your hands again, and you can't make those quick little movements. As you progress, you'll learn more about those. But right now we're just doing the scale, but you might as well practice it right from the beginning. So you want only as much of a firm grip as is necessary to keep your chanter from falling. A lot of people actually rest the end of their chanter on their knee, so you don't really have to worry too much about holding it up. You're just kind of resting it in between your fingers, and that's how we're going to play. So now to play, with all your fingers on, you're playing a low G. So if you blow with all your fingers on, it should sound nice and low. Your chanter probably won't be right in tune with mine, but it should be somewhere in that neighborhood, nice and low. If you're hearing something more like this, or this, then it's because your fingers aren't completely covering the holes. So just start with your high A, which is your thumb on the back, and just make sure each finger is covering the hole that it's assigned to completely. Again, you don't have to be squeezing it. As long as your finger's laying on top of that hole, all the air is going to be forced down to the bottom of your chanter. You're going to get that low G. So that is our first note. All the fingers on, that's low G. Now the bagpipes, the music you read, or for the Great Highland Bagpipe anyway, is going to be in the key of A. So our tonic is actually the next note up, A. So that's where a lot of songs start, is on A, or a D, and then they move to A. So this is actually our tonic, if you're familiar with that term. If you're not, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. This is your low A. So really easy, you just lift your pinky, you go from G to A. And then B is similarly very easy, you just lift your ring finger. So the first 3 notes are really easy, you're just lifting fingers. G, A, B. Now C is only a little bit more complicated, it's still pretty easy. You're lifting your middle finger, but at the same time you're putting your pointer finger back down on the chanter. And this is musically significant. It's more noticeable on the bagpipe chanter than it is on your practice chanter, but if you listen closely, you'll hear that does affect the tone quality, and when you get onto the big bagpipes, that'll affect your tuning even. Depending on what kind of reed and chanter you have, it can affect it a lot. So when you play C, you put your pinky back down. So from low G to C, you want that to happen at exactly the same time. Your middle finger comes up exactly when your pinky goes down, so that it breaks contact with the chanter exactly when your pinky makes contact with the chanter. You don't want to have what's called a crossover. I'll give you an example of one of those here in a sec. Now from C to D, it's very easy. You just lift your pointer finger. And that's your whole bottom hand. That's all the fingering. G, A, B, C, D. So now we transition to the upper hand. So when you go from D to E, it's not as simple as just lifting your ring finger. You lift up this pinky, this bottom pinky on your right hand, that comes up. All three of these fingers come down, and that ring finger comes up. So E is played like this. Pinky's up, these three are down, and your ring finger is up. So that transition from D involves a lot of fingers moving. This is D, pinky down, these three up, ring finger down. And then to E. Now, here's where I can give you a good example of a crossover. This is what you don't want to have happen. You don't want to have all these fingers moving at different times, because you'll end up with something like this. Or this. In neither case does it sound pretty. You want to have all that happen at exactly the same time, and that's going to come down to muscle memory. Just practice it. Just play it over and over again, and your fingers will get used to where they need to land on your chanter. You'll notice, for example, my pointer and middle finger are right next to each other, and that's because I have kind of big fingers, and that's the way the spacing of the holes is on my chanter, and that might be different with your chanter. You'll get used to exactly where your chanter wants to sit, and you'll get to use exactly where your fingers need to go, and you'll get it to where you've got that perfect transition from one note to the next with no crossovers. So just practice that a lot. But those are the sounds you want to avoid. You don't want that. Nice and clean like this, from D to E. Your neighbors will think that there's an ambulance on the way. Now from E to F, it's very easy. Once you've got your E, all you're doing is lifting your middle finger. And from F to G, same thing. All you're doing is lifting your pointer finger. So once we've got up to our upper hand, we're on E. To get to G is really easy. E, F, and G, you're just lifting your fingers in sequence. Now from G to A, you're going to drop your ring finger, kind of like how from B to C, you dropped your pinky down here on the lower hand. On the upper hand, from G to A, you drop your ring finger as you're lifting your thumb away from the back of the chanter. So it's like that. It's like they're just trading spots on the chanter. G to A. Again, you want to avoid crossovers. You don't want something like that. You want it nice and clean. So, let's run through the whole scale. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Now we'll do it played. There you go. That's the entire scale from bottom to top. Now I'm going to play through it from top to bottom just so that you can follow along, and that'll be it. So from high A down to low G. Oops, see, I messed up. I missed my hole because I was trying to make it real obvious. So just practice a lot and you'll still miss it, but practice all you can. And there you go, that's the scale. Of course, not all the songs you play will be in sequence, so I would recommend practicing the scale one hand at a time. Do the lower hand from G up to D, and then the upper hand from D up to A, up and down, and then do the entire scale all together. And I would recommend doing especially your transitions where a lot of fingers move, like from B to C, and from C to, not C to D, but from D to E, where you have multiple fingers moving. I would recommend just going back and forth a lot. And then if you want to, you can go on to playing notes out of sequence. For example, A to C. If you're familiar with most other instruments, they're arpeggios, where you break up a chord. So you might do A, C, E. or A, D, F, or G, B, D. Anything really is going to be good practice because of course songs are going to jump around. So practice all you can and watch the video again. Watch it slowly, pause it when you need to, play along with it.